Hi, I'm Jim McCann, founder of 1-800-Flowers. We created this podcast to share the wonderful people we get to interact with, we get to meet, we get to know, and most importantly, get to learn from. So I invite you to join us on this journey here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast. Well, we're here today to talk about a subject that's near and dear to, I think, everybody's heart, and that is music. Of course, we want to chat about things way beyond music too, but we have really interesting guests here. First, partnering with me today is Katie Forte from our team, who's an associate producer of what we do here. And we have two terrific guests, David Nathan and Sam Koch. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thank you for having us.
David, you've been in the music business your whole professional life, and as you talk to people, it seems like 50% of the young people in school that I get to talk to are going into the world of finance, and the other 50% equally divided between sports management and the music industry.
It's probably about right, actually. Yeah, I would say.
But you did. How did that journey come about? How did you wind up where so many people want to?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut and went to school in Boston and played sports, went to college to play sports, but wasn't good enough to make that team, and realized very quickly I needed something else to fall back on. And the music industry was always something for me. I was a dancer. I was like a hip hop kid. I always loved music. And I just kind of fell into the clubs and, in Boston and meeting people and networking. And I ended up running all the clubs on Lansdowne Street, which is right by Fenway Park. And those were, 5 or 6 big clubs. And I just started networking through their systems and meeting people and, figuring out that, what I do just as fun and what I'm doing for a job can be studied in school. And I ended up doing that. And then, I kind of just kept progressing and I just kept meeting people. And I went back to Connecticut after my first year, and I got a job at a radio station as an intern. And then when I came back to Boston, I started working for a couple different record companies and just stayed there, ran my company, worked did my internships. And then when I graduated, moved to New York and started my life at Columbia Records.
Wow. It sounds like a fairy tale journey for so many people who like to be in the industry. Sam, a similar path for you? Always knew music was your calling?
Yeah, Jim, I feel like I grew up in the entertainment business. My family owns an event production company. So from a young age, I was learning how to wrap wires, how to book talent. My dad was very keen on showing me the different parts of the industry from top to bottom. And he also, as I was growing up, he was showing me all different kinds of music, everything from Billy Joel to Fish to Biggie Smalls and Tupac and Bob Marley, everything in between. So I always knew I had a knack for music.
So wearing a lot of black, crawling over speakers, learning to plug and unplug on the fly, huh?
Yes, exactly. Hence all the black still. Yes.
All right. So, David, tell us, you worked with some really big acts. You've worked starting at Columbia Music, you in and out of different parts of the business. And tell us about that longest stint. You got into the radio world and had a celebrated career there.
Yeah. Like I said, I was an assistant at Columbia Records, and that whole thing is like when you're such a good assistant, your bosses don't want to let you go. Well, that's where I was. And
tell us, what does an assistant in the music industry do?
Well, I was working for the head of promotion at Columbia Records. So the promotion department back in the day, was the ones that got the records on the radio. They dealt with program directors, music directors, radio personalities, general managers, as my friend Katie can attest.
Well, as I said to Katie yesterday, when we're talking about promotion, I said that sounds like Harvey Keitel in Get Shorty.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. That could be something you look at. Absolutely. But I left Columbia Records and went to Island Records for a year just to kind of figure out. I had to get out of the Columbia thing, so I left there for a year. and I worked like all these small island independent records, like all these hip hop artists and island, like Beanie Man and Dougie Fresh and like old school hip hop. But I just wasn't right for that job, and I wasn't happy. And somebody had come to me and said, they're starting a new record company under the Universal. Seagram's owns it, and it was under the Universal umbrella. And you know Monty Littman. And I said, I know of him, but I don't really know him. And I met with Monty, and I met with Monty again, and then again, and then again. And I think it was 5 or 6 meetings. Ultimately, I convinced him, to hire me. And so I was the 7th employee at what is now Republic Records, the #1 record label in the business for the last 10 years.
Is that right? #1 for the last 10 years. I didn't realize that.
Unbelievable. And, it's home to Taylor Swift, Post Malone, The Weeknd, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato. Florida Georgia Line was there for a long time. Morgan Wallen's there today. And it's growing and growing. And, I never stepped foot in another record company after that. I stayed there with Monty and Avery and built a company and rose through the ranks all the way up to senior vice president of promotion and artist development. But all along the way, I also did marketing. I did video promotion. I did sports marketing. I did branding. I did, PR at some points, because as you very well know, when you start a company, you got to do everything, and unless you're hiring 50 people right out of the gate, which is very rare. But so, I was able to, like I said, the aforementioned artists, and I was able to get my hands in there and start really creating and crafting careers for Taylor Swift and for Florida Georgia Line and for,
hey, by the way, nice job with Taylor Swift. She seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, it was fine. She's all right. She's doing okay now. She just added 30 more shows to her tour. Oh man, I don't know if it's 30, but she definitely just ordered. Somebody just hit me literally today asking me for tickets for Miami. So I think that they just added more. But, I learned a lot. I made very good connections. Like I said in the beginning, I'm an expert networker. And I would like to say that I've never burned a bridge, and I always have my relationships intact, and because I know how important they are.
Never burn a bridge that you don't have to. Yeah. And David, in your industry, I would imagine that's easy to do with volatile personalities.
Yeah.
It's the artistic side of things, but maintaining your brand, understanding that while you're helping build someone else's brand, you have your own brand to manage.
Yeah.
And part of that is not burning bridges.
That's exactly right. So I like to, the beauty of what Sam and I have today is to your point, is like, I'm at this age and level in my career, which kind of takes me from middle up, and Sam is, from middle down, because he's younger and he's inexperienced in certain things, but way more experienced in other things. And that's the beauty and the greatness of why what we're doing today and what we've launched in this entertainment company is going to work.
When I first started in the flower business, which is a long, long time ago, I was on the Upper East Side of New York. And one of my favorite and first customers was a guy by the name of Clive Davis.
Yeah. Never heard of him. I don't know who that is.
That's special. I think it's called The Soundtrack of Our Lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just terrific. I've watched it a couple of times. And
he's an incredible, not just a music executive, but, an entrepreneur, an executive, a person. Like, I've met him a bunch of times, and the nicest guy.
It's just a giant in your world, no?
Yeah. One of the names that no matter who you're talking to, if you mention that name, 95% of the people that you're talking to, whether they're in or out of the business, will probably know who that is.
Yeah, he's amazing. And I knew his son Fred too.
Yep.
He's a very successful attorney in the music business and the entertainment industry in general. Terrific guy. Yeah. Sam, tell us a little bit more about your path. Your parents beat it into you that you had to know how to do everything. Were you a musician right away, or is this something, the family business, that you had to do it?
So I wish I was more skilled in an instrument. My dad always taught me as a kid that you have to have a skill that you can make money with. So I picked up DJing at a young age. I went to a concert and I was mesmerized by how these people were able to bring everybody together, and they could just drop their problems and unite through music. And I thought, from all different backgrounds, walks of life. It was a beautiful and powerful feeling. And since then, I just kept going with it, DJing, throwing events to make people happy and bring people together through music. And
What
yeah,
was
I
the
mean,
first time you got paid to DJ?
oh God, it was a battle of the bands little dance. I was so excited at like a local community center, and I was like DJing in and out between the breaks, and they did like a dance battle at the end, and I had like a roadie with me and everything, and I was probably like 15 years old, 14, 15 years old at the time, and just
A year
building
ago.
up every
I was
single
just gonna say
time.
it's like 2 years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Exactly. Now I've been DJing for probably about 10 years now. And just that was always my passion, but I always had I was always drawn to music, and it always helped me. It was my remedy for my own anxieties and mental health issues.
You said about anxiety. Music tells you how to feel. And it can be therapeutic, and it also can exaggerate, I think, my own impression. I'm asking a couple of professionals, but it can exaggerate your emotions one direction or the other. What role do you see music playing in people's lives, particularly when you're saying as working as a DJ, you have to be tuned into the emotion of the crowd, the vibe, so to speak, and you want to move that, you want to take that in different directions. And does your playlist change as you're thinking about the crowd and where you measure them to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think 100%. I think the biggest skill of being a DJ, I always tell people, is learning how to read a crowd and knowing your catalog of music. So obviously I'm younger, but it's my job to know the music that came before me and be prepared to do a disco set, to do classic rock, so every situation is a different set. You got to go in and you got to assess the crowd. You got to look around, see if people are moving. And like you said, music is like the soundtrack to people's lives. So I think it depends on the environment, and it's your job as a DJ to take the emotion you want people to feel and amplify it. You're controlling the room through your music, and you're kind of taking people on a journey, ups and downs and different peaks and valleys through music. So it's actually like a really interesting and beautiful process. And for me, my sets kind of depend on where I'm at and where I'm influenced in my life. Stuff I was listening to 2 years ago is different than what I've been listening to now. So it really keeps things fresh and exciting. And no better than feeling than seeing a crowd's reaction and dancing and being happy to.
I was flying back from Europe about 4 years ago, right before COVID. And I think it was just before COVID. And I was looking around for something to watch on the screen on the TV, on the plane. And I saw this Coldplay concert from Sao Paulo. And I watched it and I got hooked. And my grandkids thought it was a hoot that Papa is a Coldplay fan, because I get to pick what music's on in the house lots of times. And so they give me a hard time about it. So last year, Coldplay's on tour. I got a box at MetLife Stadium. We got a bus and I took the whole family, my kids, my grandkids, my siblings and their kids and their grandkids. And it was just such a wonderful family night to see the 5-year-old with the wristband next to the 105-year-old, all of us singing and dancing at the same time. But it was just, you left there, everybody had a smile on their face. It was just a good all-around collective experience. And for this grandpa and grandma, big old check mark on the things we want to do in our lives with our families. It was just a great kick. But that's what music and great entertainment can do. And Taylor Swift is creating a new economy right now. David, you mentioned booking new acts, new dates. I mean, there's an article today about the Swift economy.
Yeah. Listen, I've seen it. I worked with Taylor since she was, I think, 14. And, I've seen the progression of her coming from literally performing on a trailer, down in Nashville, when you see all these, if you Google like the early videos of her, to, performing 3 nights at MetLife Stadium in New York or New Jersey. And I went this year to that show because I wanted to see what I'm now not a part of. Right. And I was blown away. Just
what blew you away? The production value, the maturity, the professional development, what?
Everything. Like you
Yeah.
just, all three of those things, the amount of songs, the amount of costume changes, the lighting, the sound systems, the choreography, the amount of people coming and going on that stage, the movements in and out, the guest stars, Taylor, by far, in my mind, by far is the number one performing artist in the world. Like, she does it better than most. And then you can go overseas and
That's
see,
high praise, David.
yeah, I mean, but like you can go overseas and see a band called Rammstein, right? Which is, a German like metal rock band who actually we used to work on Republic Records, but they'll perform to 100,000 people, and it's incredible, but they haven't translated here. They can't do that here. They can perform, a smaller venue. Taylor can legitimately do that show anywhere in the world and any given night.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You probably know that I rode in an elevator with her in Dublin one time. I'm just saying.
I'm sure your company has sent her flowers quite a few times from certain people, right?
Indeed.
But yeah.
So, Katie, how did you meet David?
Sure. So my first job out of college was at a radio station called Z100, which is part of the Clear Channel family, now known as iHeartRadio. And David, we met all the way back in 2002.
Yep.
Working on Jingle Ball shows and Zootopia shows and the artist visits to Elvis Duran show, et cetera. So it's been an amazing journey getting to see where you've gone and done, and you've always been so kind to me and my team, so I appreciate it.
Well,
I have to confess, if you're going to talk about iHeartMedia, I have to bring up the fact that I am a friend and a fan of Bob Pittman, and I think he's done a great job with an old property. Remember, he started in radio. I think he was 18 in Pittsburgh when he had his first on-air gig.
He's come a long way in his career, and
he's such a capable guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've followed his rise through the Viacom days with MTV and everything that he did, and obviously his side partner John Sykes is a very good friend of mine and has done incredible things for the music industry as well.
And Syracuse, I just had to
love it. I use that, love it. But listen, iHeart by no question is the leader, in that world. And what I'm very interested and curious to watch over the next year or so is how they change their formatting and their programming and all these things to make what they're doing important still, because the radio world is crumbling, and it's not, and even when I left Republic, it was still probably the number one way to break an artist, right? Mm-hmm. Today, I don't even know if it's in the top 3 now. And it's drastically, it's sinking quick, right? It's the Titanic. And, I remember when I was working at the record companies and streaming started, and all the big labels, the big heads, at the big 3 were like, no, this is a fad. This is never going to work. It's not going to happen. And, lo and behold, 3-4 years later, they're all, trying to figure out how to do it, and they had to chase it. And it took 7 to 10 more years, right, to really get partnerships and get a hold of stuff. And I think that's what's going to happen with radio if they don't reinvent themselves. There's going to be a big problem.
What you guys did at iHeart with a common brand across the platform, the iHeart, with the shows, the Jingle Bell Ball, the creation of the big shows in Las Vegas. I mean, that extended the life of that brand and gave them a runway to build other verticals as the iceberg was melting.
Yeah, I'm just not sure they're even there yet. And the podcast world is picking up, and they're doing great things, and their syndication is picking up, and their partners are doing great things, and their shows are bigger. But again, if you don't have the people to go to your platforms to listen to the music, they're going somewhere else. And when they go somewhere else, they're going to stay somewhere else normally, That's why I'm actually surprised, like Sirius has never done like a big, huge concert like Jingle Ball or something like that, because they have the ability to bring in all their partners and, create something where people listen to Sirius. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yep. Sam, David just talked about how music, maybe not even the music break-in is not maybe using radio is one of the top 3 ways to introduce new songs, new music, new people. How would you how do you work with your acts today? We'll come back to what you do today, but how do you think about introducing new talent to the world today?
Yeah, I think it's very, very difficult today, Jim. I think it's even harder today than it was probably 15, 20 years ago. I think social media kind of leveled the playing field for everybody. And now the market is even more saturated than ever. And I think there's a lot of pressure put on artists that it's not just about having great music anymore. It's about marketing yourself. How's your cover art? How are you working with producers? How are you on social media and TikTok? And how are you getting out there and in your town, in your neighborhood, and growing your fan base, learning how to work these platforms like Spotify and Apple and SoundCloud, and everybody's journey is different. So I think, a lot of it seems to be social media driven, and a lot of people start to build a fan base and a community in their own city, grow locally first, then build. But I think it comes down to, hard work, luck, and you got to have some financial backing between you, and you got to have a good team.
Let's revert now to what you guys are doing together today, and that's an outgrowth of all your experiences that brought you here. But tell us about what you're doing today.
Changing the game. We are, we're, if you will indulge me for 1 second, I will jump to give you the back history, and then we can talk about what we're really doing. But in a quick 1 minute scenario or overview is I had a son who was 19 years old, went to University of Denver, was a serial entrepreneur, 6'3", good looking, athletic, a leader.
Didn't take after you at all.
No, I'm not one bit. And he, he struggled with anxiety and depression in his own right, and had a lot of time when he was in what he called his gray space, which is not happy, not sad, not angry, not mad. He just kind of didn't know, and he used art and music to ease his anxiety and depression, and then turned around and started helping everybody else. And that was. We didn't, we taught, always be sympathetic and always try and take care of people and do it. But Jack really took it to a whole nother level, and, was in school, created this business, came home in March of 2020 for COVID, locked himself in the basement, had an idea, came up in the end of March. And, he's like, I got it. I got this company. It's called Happy Jack. And, fun fact is that's what we used to call him when he was a baby. He used to always smile ear to ear. He was a Pampers baby, and he always just had a smile on his face, and he had that his whole life. So he started his company, and it was called Happy Jack, and it was a clothing, music or fashion company that he designed everything. He LLC the company. He found his printers, his distributors, everything. He didn't want my help in the music business. He didn't want help from his mom, who was in worked for Marie Claire in Town and Country in the editorial world. And he's like, if I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to learn from them. And it's the only way to do it. And he launched his company in June of 2020. His first
while he was in school.
No, he was already done with his sophomore year. So in June of 2020, after he finished his sophomore year, he launched the company. His first $1,000 that he made, which was in the first few hours of his launch, he wrote a check to Child Mind Institute, which focuses on kids who suffer from mental health issues. And he became a partner of theirs, and they wanted to do an exclusive deal with him, and he didn't want to do it. And I remember he and I talking on Father's Day, and I said, well, why don't you want to do it? He said, because I want to help everybody. I don't want to be locked into a deal where I have to work with, one place, even though it's amazing. I want to do other things. And that was how Jack lived his life. And so in July, he went to a party, July 2nd, he went to a party down in South New Jersey. And he took what he thought was a Percocet, and it was laced with fentanyl. and he went to sleep and never woke up. And so I lost my son on July 3rd of 2020. And immediately we, sorry, sometimes it gets me, sometimes it doesn't. And
can't imagine that it ever doesn't or ever will not get you. It's we were chatting here in the office. Katie will tell you yesterday with a friend of ours here, and she had the same experience with one of her son's friends just back last month, 17-year-old girl. And I struggle to understand why. I'm never a drug user. I just don't understand why people feel the need to take something,
Yeah, I don't, the interesting thing was, and what I need to clear is that, Jack didn't commit suicide. He didn't take, he took it willingly, but he thought it was something else. And regardless of that, I always say he made a mistake for a millisecond. And that's unfortunately with this drug and with the way it's coming out and what it's doing to people, it takes a quarter of a second and that's it.
Epidemic.
Yeah, it really is. And this was on the beginning side of it, right? But we realized from there that we had to do something. And so Brady, my ex-wife, Jack's mom, we took over the company. We made a memorial hat, which we sold. I think we sold 1,900 or 1,980 caps or something like that in 2 weeks. And, to celebrities and athletes and just regular people. And we wrote a check to Child Mind Institute for $24,000, I think, 23,000. And that began our living with Happy Jack. And since then, we have donated over $160,000 to different charities and foundations. And we're really working. We have 60 college ambassadors that work with us on college campuses. We just did a licensing deal with Kenneth Cole that's going to put out a whole bunch of stuff in October for Mental Health Awareness Day. We've partnered with Lady Gaga and Selena Gomez and a bunch of different athletes. And like I said, and we just did something with the Houston Astros and Major League Baseball picked up on it. So we're really starting to continue that brand. But in my mind, there was something missing. And the other thing that Jack loved was music. He was a music head, huge fan of Travis Scott and Mac Miller. And he actually managed an artist or two that I didn't even know about. I knew that this would have been this natural progression, and I just didn't know how to do it. I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know. And probably about 9 months ago now, I got connected through a friend of mine to Sam. And, we literally, I've never met Sam. I know his father. I know the company, but I never met Sam. And I was doing somebody a favor. They said, can you talk to, this guy's kid? He just graduated. He's a DJ. He's really smart. He wants to do something that's going to be impactful, and he wants to make some change happen. And I talked to him, and I will tell this story, and I tell it all the time. Not even 5 minutes into the conversation, I knew that this was, a marriage that was made from above. And there was a reason that I met Sam.
We put our heart into everything we do. We are farmers, bakers, florists, and makers who grow and create with a passion. Made with love at every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, we know you're sending more than a gift. 1-800-Flowers, share with love.
We, our mindset was, how do we change the music industry? And what are we going to do? And so we started Happy Jack. And again, I'll say Sam was so, so appreciative of Jack that there wasn't even a question that the name of the company was going to be Happy Jack Records. Like, he's like, that's what I want it to be. I, was obviously dumbfounded and appreciative. But so we started, and I'm gonna let Sam talk about it for a second and really get into it. But we have since changed this now to Happy Jack Entertainment, because we feel, first of all, I feel like the records thing is antiquated, but I also feel like what we're doing, and we're building different pillars. We have different things that are going into this overall, right? The record company is in there. The foundation is in there. We're doing, we're creating a podcast called Therapy Sessions, which both of you are invited on anytime you want. And it's being hosted by Maxwell from Z100 in New York.
Right.
And we're doing an education pillar as well, which we're moments away from doing a deal with Lincoln Center, which is going to allow Happy Jack Entertainment to be the creative base to helping these kids learn how to make podcasts and make music and do all these things and actually give back.
When David and I kind of connected, obviously his background is in music. And even though I'm younger, my background and my DNA has always been in music. We both saw that we're at the crossroads for an opportunity to kind of merge music and mental health. We saw on one side that the music industry, there were a lot of artists struggling, a lot of name artists, a lot of successful artists. And if those people are struggling and they have the money and resources to get all the best help in the world, and they're still not okay, you can't even imagine what it's like for the average artist that has probably no money and has no connections to get into the industry. So
So Sam, why is that? Do you think that there's a disproportionate amount of mental health struggles in the entertainment industry? Is it because it's an expressive craft? Is it because it's artistic and artistic people are going to have different brain chemistry? Is it the nature of the industry that it's so challenging and so many down periods and challenges in trying to launch a career, so many disappointments? What do you think is the mix that causes that?
I think it's a little bit of everything that you said. I think on one hand, creatives are more prone to having mental health issues. And I feel like, the industry today, like we touched on earlier with social media, and the playing field is a lot more saturated. It's more than just the music today. And I feel like there's no education on the industry. It's kind of like the artist development piece has gone away. And now it's kind of like, figure it out. Once you get to that point, we'll come in and help you and sign you and take you to the next level. But most people don't even know how to get to that first step. I think that's where a lot of the confusion and mental health issues come into play. I think anybody, Jim, that's not doing a 9-to-5 job, it's, to use a music term, it's like a blank canvas, but think about art. Everybody's journey is different. And I think most people aren't blessed with either the business acumen or have a right team from the get-go to help guide them and navigate them, because every artist needs a good team. And unfortunately, the narrative has been, get a deal, get signed, they blow the money, or the album gets shelved, and there's a lack of financial literacy, and just there's a lot more education that I feel that needs to be done. It's a hard industry to get into, but once you're in it, it seems like it's a very small industry. And I think the hardest part is cracking the door open and then staying consistent. And if you don't have those contacts, or you don't have the money to put into yourself, just like each artist is a business. You got to spend money to make money. My dad would always tell me off the gate, so if you don't even have that initial capital to help grow your songs and shoot your videos and promote your work, it's an uphill battle from the start.
David, you mentioned when you were talking about your son, Jack, that he referred to in his gray space. He wasn't happy, he wasn't sad, but he was in a gray area. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you guys spoke about his challenges with depression and anxiety. And I would think, Sam, that's not a common thing in the entertainment industry. As you get more and more successful, I think your circle probably narrows of the people you can talk to. David, what was your relationship with Jack like, that he was able to talk to you about those things? Because I think it's a very hard subject for most people to broach.
Yeah, we were very lucky in the sense that Jack was, in his personality, was a lot like me, which is that, in certain ways, which, he was able to talk about his things, but there were definitely tons and tons of moments where he didn't. And, he harbored his feelings, and he got angry, and he got mad. He hated authority. He didn't like, he didn't understand why colleges require you to take tests, and they should be admitting you on the merits of you as a person and a human being and what you're going to do moving forward in life, as opposed to what you've done. You may be a horrible test taker, and yet you can't get in. These added pressures to these kids, especially today, is even worse. But I was lucky. I was lucky in the fact that Jack, probably more with his mom, communicated than he did with me in terms of that. I don't know why, but I'm lucky that he did, and he just kind of felt like he needed to be that voice for other people as well, right? That he wanted to be the one who spoke and helped kids who don't have the voice to speak or don't know how to do it or are just embarrassed to do it in general.
Well, helping other people is self-therapeutic too. We have a friend who's a former professional athlete. He was a hockey player, a goaltender. His name is Chuck Thues, and he struggled his whole adult life with severe anxiety and depression. It was to the point where it got to be very dangerously close to him taking his own life at one point.
Yeah.
And part of his recovery and his own self-help is helping other people. And thank God he does, because I know personally that he's helped a lot of people. And it sounds like that's what was in it for Jack too. He knew that if he could help other people, it was good for him.
Yeah. And I think like I said earlier, I mean, that's one of our mission statements is to why we're doing this is to be able to offer the ability to give artists the platform to be able to speak, to be able to improve themselves, their communities, their fans, and do it in a way that is respectful and professional and mature and appreciative. I say this, and it's a horrible stat, but I've been in thousands and thousands of meetings in my career with managers, with agents, with artists, with record executives, and I legitimately, and I say this wholeheartedly, cannot remember if ever that an artist's well-being had ever been brought up in a conversation. Now remember, by the way, I've gone back, right? I have an Amy Winehouse plaque over my shoulder. Like, I worked with Amy Winehouse, right? I worked with Prince. I worked with, with artists that are no longer with us, unfortunately. And, I said this at our launch party is, I question sometimes in my mind is whether or not I could have made a difference if I spoke up, about something. Now, I don't know the answer to that, and unfortunately I never will, but I know, and Sam agrees, is that moving forward, we can, and we will.
I feel like, Jim, what you were saying earlier about, it makes us feel good when you give back and help other people. We looked and we were like, okay, you have the music industry where the artists aren't being helped and they're suffering. And then you have the mental health industry, which from an outsider's perspective, somebody who's not in the space may toss around the terms like it's deep, it's clinical, it's serious. And we said, like, the music is cool. The artists are cool. If we could take the artists and help them and have them become brand ambassadors for mental health advocacy, hopefully we'll get the youth to listen. It's like, I hate it to say it, but in high school, when they teach you about DARE, the DARE program, I feel like half of the kids go and they do and try the drugs anyways.
Right.
And we're really trying to figure out with Happy Jack Entertainment, how do we come up with a message that sticks and where we're going to get the youth to say it's cool to talk about your mental health. It's okay to talk about your mental health. Every single person, no matter what age you are, has struggled in some part of their life. So I think for us, we're using music as a
And if they haven't, they will.
They will, or they don't even realize it yet. And, I think it's using the music and the artists as catalysts to promote positive mental health, so that's what our whole approach. And now it being more than just a record company, we said we could help even more people than just the music industry. We could impact the kids coming out of college, teens in high school. I mean, especially after COVID, people are lost, and we want to help people, educate them. And we believe that if you teach people skills, it builds confidence, and that confidence builds people's overall well-being. We call it mental fitness. Just like in gym class, they teach you physical fitness, but people need to learn about mental fitness, and it's not too late, no matter what age you are.
I'd love to know how you guys take care of your own mental fitness, right? As you are taking care of those folks around you on such a large scale.
I have a therapist that I walk with, and, it's depending on the weather, once a week, once every 2 weeks or whatever. But I speak to her on the phone, and I play sports, and I travel, and I do those kind of things. And I'm lucky in the sense that I have a wife who, I don't need to get into it, but went through a similar situation as me, just with a younger child. And so when I'm stressed out and I'm anxious, or I'm depressed, or I'm upset, I can talk to her about it and she can walk me through something. And the other thing, quite frankly, is I have a 20-year-old daughter who's amazing. And, Sam knows her. And it's funny because she's working at Republic Records now as an intern.
Oh, wow.
but and she's exactly like me. And so, and she's had her own issues, obviously, by losing a brother and, and all these other things, parents getting divorced. But so I my therapy sometimes is talking to her.
To follow on Katie's point, what you just said, David, is the key for your mental health is interacting with other people you want to be around.
Yeah.
Whether it's your ex-wife or your current wife or your daughter or the people you interact with, you wear on your sleeve with the business effort that the two of you are pursuing here, that mental health is an important ingredient in your lives. Ergo, you're willing to talk about it. In fact, you're willing to invest your energies to protect and develop your own mental health in pursuit of help, creating a platform that will help others. But the key there is conversation about it, professional help when appropriate, and relationships. And it seems to me that your world, Sam, your world, David, in the music industry is one that can become quite isolating.
Yeah, you hear it all the time and you see it all the time. As a matter of fact, you look at, if you look at our deck, right, there's a page that's dedicated to artists that have canceled shows, have gone quiet, have left the industry because they can't handle it. When you're on the road, and I've seen it, it's an isolation. When you're, recording, it's an isolation. When you are failing at what you do, right, all the yes people disappear and all your friends disappear. And it becomes, when you're successful, everything's great because everyone wants to be around you, everyone tells you everything. But the music industry has a 99% failure rate, right? So that means that 1 out of every 100 people is going to fail. And those people are going to feel isolated and have grief and be, angry at the world. And you have to work with those people. To your point, Jim, you have to work with those people just as much as you have to work with everyone else. And that's our whole philosophy, is like the artists that we're signing, there's requirements. You have to be able to talk about your mental health issues. You have to be able to want to do something about your mental health issues. We can't force anybody to ever go to therapy, but we are connected. We work with a company called My Wellbeing, which is, going to give therapy time, which we're going to pay for, therapy time to the artists that want to be a part of it. And those are requirements. Like I'm not interested. I don't care how big you are. And Sam sometimes may get mad at me for saying this, but it doesn't matter how big you are. If you're not interested in improving your mental well-being and the others around you, no offense, but we're not the place for you to be.
Tell us about that. Katie, what's your impression of what Happy Jack Entertainment is going to be? You talked about signing talent now. What kind of talent are you looking for? How much talent are you looking for? And what do you bring to the table that'll help that talent, and not only in pursuit of their mental health goals, but in pursuit of their professional goals?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer the music, the artist side, and then Sam can jump in. But I mean, we're not genre specific. Right now we are in process of locking in 3 different deals. One with a Syrian refugee, beautiful woman, smart, educated, who lives in New Zealand. And, she grew up in Syria in a refugee camp and was forced out of her camp. And 2 days, if they didn't leave, 2 days later, that entire refugee camp was leveled down to the ground. And, she had family issues, and our first conversation with her is like, well, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to be the strongest and most powerful woman in the world. Like she has a vision, and she's actually breaking overseas in Dubai and in the Middle East. And so we're loving her. And then we're working with an artist named King Kanja, who, was born in London, lives in Maryland, and his family has roots in Kenya. He's actually just got back from a 2-month tour in North Africa. And he, his family is educated and well-to-do and smart, and he's super focused from the Afrobeat side and the you know, and the reggae and pop side of things, or not reggae, but you know, the hip hop and urban side of things. And then we're working with an artist that we hope to sign very shortly, who is a non-binary LGBTQ artist, been in Cirque du Soleil, been in some movies, represented by an agent, but really believes that them, you know, can make a real difference in a lot of different genres musically. It's amazing. So the idea for us is to sign, you know, I don't think we can sign more than 4 or 5 a year. It won't be fair to the artists. So right now we're looking at 3. We may add 1 more.
And that's a function of your bandwidth being able to serve them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's not, you know, Sam and I don't want to get bogged down with, you know, with working with all these. I mean, I would love to be able to say we can sign 20 artists, but we don't have the bandwidth, and it's not fair to us, but more importantly, not fair to them, because we need to give them the attention and the, you know, the respect that they deserve as an artist. Now, will they all succeed? I hope so, but we have no idea.
We're doing what we can to try and level the playing field and success rate for artists. We believe that if we give people the right tools to work on themselves, that they'll have a better chance for success, and they'll come out better in their personal and professional lives.
Yeah.
You know, how could they be a better father, a mother, a family member, a friend, but also an artist and a role model? I think people forget that whether they want to admit it or not, every artist is in the spotlight and is a role model, and there are kids looking up to them. I think it's very important today to think about the legacy that these artists want to leave beyond their music, you know, and impacting communities. And, you know, we really do believe that the musical component could really impact the next generation and get people to start embracing their own mental health, so the conversation becomes more normalized. You know, I think to what you said before, when you start to talk about it, or when you start to help people, it's therapy for us. It's therapy for me when I get to share my story, you know. And I think it's important that the more people feel comfortable, other people will be like, oh, well, you know, Justin Bieber is talking about his mental health, so, you know, if he's doing it, well, I could be doing it too. You know, since he's cool, it's cool for me to talk about it, you know. And I think that's why some of these artists hold more weight than brands themselves today, you know, and that's why we run it.
It's clear, based on the type of artist that you're signing out of the gate, that the common thread there is that they need to have a mission beyond just making music and making money. That's clear in everything that you've said today. The second piece of that is in terms of artist management today. Not only is it the music, but then there's all the things around it. So what will Happy Jack do from a merchandising point of view, other products? What role will products play in the mix as you help these artists on their mission to have the musical impact that they want, and then have the secondary benefit on their community that they want and that you want?
That's a great question. I feel like, so part of that is teaching the artists about financial literacy, knowing the deals they're getting into, and helping set up the artists so they could be better business people and have profits, revenue coming in with long term, you know. So showing them the importance of merchandise, showing them the importance of being on the road, taking your money, investing it into real estate or stocks, or doing brand deals. You know, I think between our contacts, you know, we see a lot from corporate and brands starting to shift into the wellness world and feeling a social responsibility to speak on it, whether it's internally and externally within the company or externally to the public. So I feel like, to us, tapping in with the brands and looping our artists in with that, giving them those brand opportunities, you know, synchronization deals in music and movies, even the podcast we're building out. I think we're also showing our artists that as we're building out these different properties, we hope to encourage them to go after and be entrepreneurs in their own rights and have it be beyond just the music.
We're putting together a tour. The idea is to start with the HBCUs and really put together an event that, and then, you know, then the goal is to go to the Big 10 and the Big 12 and the conferences and work with the school, the universities. But the idea is to put together these days these therapy sessions, if you will, right? Where you go in and you have keynote speakers, you have panels. These panels will include athletes, pre-med, education people, mental health people, and really put together, a full day of conversation, which then culminates in a concert. And with music. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be our artists. I mean, obviously we would like that, but and the idea is to formulate a sponsorship deal with a bunch of different places and companies and brands that believe in what we're doing, right? And want to make a difference. And again, not just on the HBCUs, but all across college campuses, then expanded into, I think there's been conversations now about expanding it into the regulars, high schools and elementary schools, because I think the average age now for someone who starts experiencing mental health is, I think, 12 or 13. When it really kicks in is probably about 15 or 16. And then, as it goes, it gets worse and worse. And then we have, just on our side, we have some great merch. We have great shirts that, that say, I told my therapist about you. And we have shirts that, music is my, and you'll be able to fill in a word, if you remember those stickers that hello, my name is, right, kind of things.
Yep.
And we're just going to have fun with it and design things that we think are cool to wear, are not gender specific, not nothing other than just, hey, it's therapy is cool, right? It's okay to not be okay. Like, speak about it, because if you don't, it's going to cause more problems for you down the line. So there are a lot of synergies and a lot of things that we're doing, and companies and brands that we're just starting to work with and talk to about, some really great strategic partnerships.
Well, I wish you well on your journey. Katie's obviously a screaming fan of you two guys and the mission that you're on. And so I'm so glad that, Katie, thank you for introducing us.
Yeah, thank you.
It sounds to me like, and we're going to put this in our time capsule and revisit this every year on your journey, but it sounds to me like 5 years out, you have a rather full roster of 30 to 40 acts that you're working with, that people are attracted to come to you because of your sensitivity to the important issues that confront them in terms of the business challenges, the artistic challenges. You have such a mix of experiences that can help them through all of that. And when you look at the whole brand of the musical act, in terms of all the things they can do, and that can free them up to devote time and attention to their mission, beyond their music, incorporating their music and beyond, I think you're going to attract a lot of people who be comfortable having you guide them on this critical path. I suspect your acts will have a higher degree of success.
Jim, we're trying to make mental health sexy.
If people want to get involved or, sign up to be an ambassador or a guidance counselor at a school that wants to learn more about the programs you're rolling out, where can they find you? Where can they go?
You can go to our website is happyjackrecords.org, right? Yeah. And our Instagram is Happy Jack Records. And, we're building these, everything it's a fluid, it's a fluid changing world, and our website may change, and but there's places where you can go and donate. We have a foundation, so you can donate money there, tax-free at the IRS. You can also, there's places, if you have an artist or somebody's listening, they can go and submit music. We're always looking. I've said to Sam, I will never not listen to a record. I will never not speak to an artist, because you never know. And then, again, there's Sam actually has really good ideas. We should have an idea portal, where people can, or suggestions. Hey, come to, I got something for Happy Jack the other day from Sacred Heart University. They want us to come down and do a whole mental health day. So there's a lot of things we can do. And I think just even being on this podcast and being a guest of yours, Jim, is just going to help us and put us in another level. And that's what it is. And that's what I said earlier about finding, and building relationships with the right people that are making a difference and want to continue to make differences. And you've been doing that for a long time. And I think Sam and I speak for him when I say we're very appreciative and thankful that, we're on your radar and whatever we can do. And I think what, your celebrations chatter is doing is amazing. And so thank you.
Thanks, guys. So we'll all be going to happyjackrecords.org to submit our ideas, suggestions, questions, and just to keep track of what you guys are doing. It's worthwhile, it's meaningful, and something we could all learn from. So we wish you great success on your journey, and we'll be checking in on a regular basis.
Go to 1-800-Flowers.com.
They have tons of great birthday gifts.
Wow.
Wow.
Happy birthday, baby.
Wow.
Yummy. I got to contain myself.
1-800-Flowers.
Celebrate the people you love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and I know I'll be sharing it forward. I hope you get to as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow me along on Twitter at Jim 1-800-Flowers and on LinkedIn at Jim McCann. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Celebrations Chatter. You can join our community by reaching out at chatter@celebrations.com. And while you're at it, tell us what topics you'd like us to explore here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to share it forward.